Yeah, that's Koud. Nah, Bliksem. Okay, so where you oaks are in South Africa, whatever's happening right now, there's snow, there's rain, there's floods, there's wind. It's cold, it's wet, it's windy. All right, the bees aren't liking it, we aren't liking it, and there's no Exstorm, Eskom. All right, so I just thought I'd pop on, and we've been messaging on Facebook and so on, and emails. If you're a subscriber, cool. If you're not, check in the description below for our free newsletters and tips, or go and check our Facebook page and our Instagram page, etc., etc. We're all out there. But yeah, if you aren't already, here's a couple of tips. We've got 10 steps or 10 tasks you should be doing right now to help your bees out. Okay. Firstly, we want to be feeding our bees. We want to feed them a 2-to-1 solution of sugar water, and you can add a tablespoon of vinegar in there. That just helps it not to ferment if it lasts that long. I mean, typically the bees at this point in time, if they don't have enough supply of honey that you might have left them in the brew box or in their hive that they're in, then they're going to chow the sugar water pretty quickly. So it's a 2-to-1 solution. That's 2 kilograms of sugar, 1 liter of water, tablespoon or 2 even of vinegar in there. Helps the fermentation process to take to be a bit more delayed. Okay, if the bees don't, especially if you're feeding them a lot at a time without an internal feeder frame, I think the most they can hold is about 3 liters from us at the shop. But if you're doing other formats of feeding, which is inside the super itself, you might be using more than 3 liters. What can happen is it can ferment and then the bees get dysentery. We want to avoid that. Cool. The other thing you can feed, if you don't want to do a wet feed, which is what we just talked about now, sugar water or syrup, you could do fondant, which is a dry feed. Okay, it's 500 grams, and I'd say that's probably once every 2 weeks or so. You also might want to add a little bit of pollen substitute in your bee hives at the moment. They don't need a lot of it because essentially they mostly use pollen when they're making brood, and they're not going to be making much brood now. So, but they do need a little bit of pollen to get through to get through the winter. It's their version of protein. The other thing is we wanted that you can do, especially if you're in the cold areas of the country, really cold areas, and or you're going to have a cold front, is you want to insulate your boxes in your apiaries by, you can either use bubble wrap as a bit of a cheap way of being able to do it. The other one is you can actually buy like more expensive, like your what do you call it, like cold wrap type of material with that insulated silver on the inside. You can wrap them with that, get that kind of material, wrap it up. You can also put, if you have a super on your box, um, and the frames aren't being used, I would remove those all, and you could put a pillow in there or newspaper in there. That's going to create a bit of insulation from the inside as well, which gets us to moving on to the next step, which is to create fire breakers. Okay, so why do we want to create fire breakers right now? Well, the main reason is because it's although it's wet with snow at the moment, it's going to be dry. You're going to have a lot of the stuff's going to be dead. All the debris and the felt and the bush and all that sort of stuff, all going to be dry at the moment, and dead. So essentially, what you want to do is you want to make sure that you're clearing a lot of that out, and you're clearing fire breakers around your apiaries to make sure that they're safe and or relatively safe from any risk of felt fires that might come through over the next 2-3 months, basically. It's also just good practice generally just to clear the old debris. It makes it a bit easier when it's winter time to do that, so that come the springtime they can renew and revive themselves, which will be like the last one then, or next one then, is to combine weak colonies. All right, so we want to be able to take weaker colonies and combine them using a newspaper method, which is essentially you put a sheet of newspaper on the top of the one or the bottom box. You're going to take the next box with a weaker colony inside it and put it on, or poke some holes in the newspaper actually with a pinprick, just so that the air can circulate and they can smell each other inside the colony. Once you put the other box on top of it, close it up like you normally would. I would also be feeding them as well at the same time. Add some feeder frames in there, and over a time, what it'll do is they'll eat eat through the newspaper. But as this air circulation takes place, the bees become more, the scent becomes one amalgamated, and they now are happy mates. Okay, housemates. Everybody likes each other and knows each other, and nobody's a stranger. The other one is that you want to remove excess space, right? So we talked early on about maybe if you do have an empty super or super that's not being used, or it's just got frames in it with little honey in it at the moment. What you could do is completely remove that super off and any other supers that are extra on the hive. And the reason being is that your colonies right now are going to contract massively. They're going to go from whatever size they are now, probably down to about 50%. And this is their natural instinct over the winter time because the queen's going to stop laying. Okay, she doesn't lay very much now, maybe 200-300 eggs a day, if that. And compared to like 1,500 to 2,000 eggs a day in the springtime and the summer peak period. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to ensure that they don't have to look out. They don't have to. They don't need that much space. And the reason why we want to remove excess frames and supers from there is just so that we can have the bees can have a smaller space to control the internal climate with. Okay, the internal temperature inside there. Because remember, they've got to keep it at 36 degrees so that everybody lives and survives and thrives. Okay, regardless of what the outside temperature is. So just bear that in mind. 36 degrees is the magic number. And so remove any excess supers off of there unless you know that you've got honey in there. Just take them all off. But if you do that, then just make sure that you have your feeder frames in the bottom or that you are insulating the boxes accordingly. Okay. Make sure that you store those supers well as well. They need to be in a dry, cool place. Make sure that the wax moth can't get into them, especially if you've got built comb on those frames in the supers. So stack them up nicely together and make sure that they're wrapped with a plastic bag. And that they're not going to be over humid because that can cause a little bit potential mold going in there, which the bees will clean up anyway in the springtime. So that's cool. The last thing is maybe reduce your entrances. Okay, so reduce the entrances at the front of your hives. The reason being is that if there's a frontal wind or a side wind that's coming along, it's going to get in there and it's going to just mess up the internal climate and the management of how they work with that. All right, so you want to be able to reduce the entrances right now. Doesn't matter what size your colony is, just reduce the entrances. And it's easy to do that. Either you can use a piece of plank wood with just a bit of space drilled out of it, with space taken off of it with a chisel or whatever the case is. Get one from us. We've got spare ones at the shop. Alternatively, you could just cover it with a piece of plastic, an old ruler, and a drill. Go through and make sure that they've got all they need is about a matchbox size width of an old match. You know, the line matchboxes, those. Just that much of a width is enough at the moment in the wintertime. And that helps them so much, okay? Because, again, it's all about climate control now going forward and being able to survive on the food that they have, whether you're feeding them or not. Even if you are feeding them at the moment, what can happen is that the bees tend to move up higher. So why? Because hot air rises, right? So they tend to move up higher, and so the higher they've got to go in the hive, as they do that, as they start moving up, if there's no food available, they don't come back down. Okay, they don't come back down. What ends up happening is that they can have honey all over the place in other areas of the box, right? And because they're pretty much in their bunch, they're in their bundle, in their swarm, in the middle of the box, in the middle of the hive. They don't move left or right or down. So if that food runs out in that spot, that's it. They're done. Okay. So make sure that you've got entrance reducers on. The last thing I think I would say is at this point, and if I have forgotten anything, guys, please comment either in the top chat at the moment, the live chat. I see there's a couple of people watching, which is awesome. But if you're catching this later, please comment in the chat below, in the comments below, and then I'll follow up after this. But I'm going to wrap up now. Check for pests. All right, you want to be checking externally. You don't have to open up to see if there's ants, because you're going to know if there's ants. They're going to be like walking into the hive. Okay, and the reason being is that they're just as hungry as the bees are at the moment, and they're suffering during the winter time, and they can smell the honey that's in there, and they'll go for it. Okay, they'll go for it now, especially if you think you had problems with ants in the springtime or the summertime, wait until you see what happens when the winter comes along. Okay, so in order to help potentially with that, is you can use diatomaceous earth, and don't obviously sprinkle that anywhere near your bees or the hive itself. It must only be on the floor of and surrounding around the hive itself. Okay. The problem is that obviously diatomaceous earth does wash away with sun with rain and moist, runoff and all that sort of stuff. And if you're watering your garden or whatever it is, it'll run off. It doesn't stay forever. Diatomaceous earth is an awesome product for the ants, regardless of whether it's winter or not. But don't get it on your bees. Okay. And don't get it on your equipment either, especially your gloves, because you're going to be going into the hive with that. No, you don't want that. Okay. The other one to check, and if you are going to open your colonies right now, guys, only do it when it's warm. Okay. Only do it when it's going to be a warm day, like plus 10 degrees. Don't do it when it's like -2 or something. And also, I would recommend that don't do it just before a cold front's going to come, because you're going to break the propolis seals, and that's what also keeps the box airtight at the moment. Right, so you're going to give the bees more work to do. So let's avoid that as well. If there's anything else that I've left out, let me know, guys. So it's wax moth pests. It's going to be ants. And then you may end up getting, in some cases, you may end up getting things like bee eaters, honey bee eaters this time of year, because they're also cold and hungry. So keep an eye out for that. I think that's a wrap. All right. I hope you are going to keep warm. Keep those hot toddies coming. Make sure you got your honey for the coughs and the colds. And we'll see you on the other side. All right. Thanks for watching, and comment below if you guys have anything else that I've missed out on. It'd be awesome to chat about it. And yeah, see you on the next one.